a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper?
Yes.
All right. Kol hakavod. So I want you guys to learn how to find where you can read the parasha for yourself. There are many websites. I'm not a fan of Chabad, but Chabad does have a very good website. So to get to the weekly parasha on their website, you go to chabad.org, and then usually on the right-hand side, you can see weekly Torah portion. We just click that. And then we see text-based learning. We click that. And then we see the name of the parasha, Torah reading. And then we'll click that. thazREEya, Torah reading. thazREEya is the name of this week's parasha. I like the way they put it on their website because you can easily click on the different aliyot because the parasha is divided into 7 aliyot. So this week's Torah reading, it's Leviticus chapter 12, verse 1 through chapter, oh, that's not the whole thing. This is just the first aliyah. So Leviticus chapter 12, verse 1, all the way to, well, somehow it skips to Numbers. There are a few times in the year where you have different combinations, like the majority.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Go ahead. Yes?
Shalom, Rabbi. Shalom.
Shalom. So the majority of the aliyot will always be that week's Torah portion. Sometimes the last one will be different, but this kind of a variation, it can depend on the community. However, since Ashkenazim are the majority and they have the most popular websites, that's what you're going to normally see. But you can usually find other traditions, what they would do in different chumashim, different printed texts of the Torah. All right, are we ready, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead. Another nice thing here, you can click here and you can see Rashi's commentary translated and with the Hebrew, but I'm going to make it disappear. We're going to make the text bigger. Okay. So we're going to begin reading. We're going to divide our lesson into 3 parts. First part will be reading the parasha, the Torah, and we're going to practice Hebrew in this reading. And then the second part will be learning halakha. We're going to do half of that Yesodeh ha-Torah. That's what we were learning last week, the foundations of the Torah, Yesodeh ha-Torah. And then the second part, we're going to do the halachot, the laws for Passover, Hilkhoth, Hamets, u-Matsa. And then the last part, we can just have discussion and talk. All right, who is going to be the first human sacrifice? Who wants to volunteer? Any volunteer to read?
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. I will read the verse by myself first, and then we will review it. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to read it by myself first, and then we can have a volunteer reread it a second time. All right, so the first letter is Vav. Everybody say Vav.
Wow.
Okay. Please don't read the whole word. Okay, just repeat what I say, and then after we get through the verse, we will choose some volunteers to do it again. So this letter is Vav. the vowel underneath it, it's called patach. Everyone say patach. Vav and patach make a va sound. The sound of this vowel, the little line that goes left and right, that vowel is called patach. So va. This letter is yud. It makes a Y sound usually. Yud. This is yud. It's on top of a shva. This is called a shva. There are two types of shva. One is silent and one is sounded. The silent shva does not make a vowel sound. The silent shva just means that this part of the word is one unit. It's one part. The sounded shva makes a short eh sound. And both types of shva, they look the same. We will talk about how you can tell the difference when it's relevant. All we need to know is that here, this shva, for now, it's silent shva. If you're ever not sure whether a shva is silent or sounded, that means whether the shva makes a vowel sound or does not make a vowel sound. Always assume that it's silent unless you know for sure that it is sounded. So this shva refers to the two dots, one on top of each other. This shva is silent, so it makes no vowel sound. It symbolizes no vowel sound. So we're going to read it like one part, vai, vai. Because it's silent, it's a silent shva, we are not going to say vayet. It's not vayet, it's vai. Okay, next letter. This letter is daled. Daled. The vowel underneath it is the same vowel underneath the vav. That vowel is called patach. Everybody say patach.
Patach.
Good job. Kol hakavod. So daled makes a D sound. D. Daled plus patach is da. So we have vai, da. This letter is bet. Everyone say bet.
Bet.
Kol hakavod. Good job. The vowel underneath the bet is only these two dots, one next to the other. Okay? This little symbol that looks like a comma, that is not a vowel. That's for knowing how to sing the Hebrew text of the Torah. And we're not learning that right now. Okay, we are only learning the vowels and the letters. So these two dots, one next to each other, they're called tsere. Everyone say tsere. Okay, that's the name of the vowel. The sound that it makes should be inside the name of the vowel. So tsere makes an eh sound. Tsere. The sound of that vowel is eh. So bet, this letter bet, b plus tsere, which is eh, will give us be. Vai, da, be. Vai, da, be. Okay. Very good. Kol hakavod. This letter is a resh. That's the name of the letter. Resh. It makes an R sound. R. And it looks like an R. It looks like a R in English, but backwards. Okay. So bet plus the vowel tsere is be. So be plus resh and no vowel is ber. That gives us the word vai, da, ber. Yes, vai, da, ber. Okay, this is the name of God, the most holy name of God, Hashem. When we're just reading the Torah, we're going to read it like Adonai. We're not going to read it the way it looks here. And the vowels that it has, everyone knows that these are not the correct vowels. It has the vowels of the name Adonai. Sometimes it has a different vowels. Sometimes it'll have the vowels of Elohim. Okay, so vai, da, ber, Adonai. This letter is Aleph. Everyone say Aleph.
Aleph.
Okay. Aleph plus segol. This vowel is called segol.
Segol.
It makes an e sound.
L.
Okay, so segol and sere, they make the same sound. Really, if we are doing proper ancient pronunciation of Hebrew, we would make a small difference between these two sounds. But we are only learning the most popular standard way of pronouncing Hebrew today in modern times. Shira, I think Shira, if you could mute your, I don't know if it's Shira or no, it's Akiva. Akiva, if you could mute your microphone, there's some noise. Akiva ben Avram, can you mute your microphone? Okay, I'll just mute it.
Sir? Brother, okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Aleph plus segol, the name of this vowel, 3 little dots together, it's segol. It makes an e sound. So Aleph and segol is e plus lamed. This is lamed el. So we have vai da ber Adonai el. Okay, this is a mem. It makes an m sound like the word mother.
Moshe.
Please, that's correct, but please don't say the name unless we're taking turns to give an example. Okay, so mem makes an m sound like mother. We need a vowel. Where's the vowel? Anybody want to volunteer where the vowel is, if you can explain?
No vowel.
Okay, so
What, Rabbi?
in order to read Hebrew, every letter in a word, it needs a vowel. We can't speak without vowels. And a vowel is a letter like A or E or I, O, U. Those are vowels. So where's the vowel for this mem? And we need to know because this is a common word. Yes, we know it's Moshe, but we're not trying to learn just by knowing already what it is. If we are learning Hebrew and we're not sure what this word means, and you read this, you have to look for the letter plus the vowel. So where's the vowel here? It's a trick question, but it's important because you're going to see this name many places and you might get confused if you don't know the answer. So the answer is this mem, it's followed by the letter shin. Everybody say shin.
Shin.
Okay, yes. So shin, sometimes it makes a sha sound, like the word shalom, and sometimes it makes a sa sound, like the word Yisrael. When it's a S sound, like Yisrael, this dot on the top, it's going to be on the left-hand side, like here. Here is a sa, like the word Yisrael. In this word, it's on the right-hand side, so it makes a sha sound, like the word shall, or the word Moshe, okay? Now, our question is, where is the vowel for this mem? The answer is, when the letter shin comes after the letter mim, many times the dot on top of the shin will serve 2 purposes. It serves 2 functions. It's the sha, it lets you know that this letter is sha instead of sa, but it's also symbolizing the vowel for the mem, which would be a holam, just like the vowel over here. So that's the answer. Where's the vowel for the mem? It's symbolized by the dot on top of the shin. And this is only when a shin comes after a mem. That's the only time that the dot of a sheen will also serve the purpose of the vowel, cholam. So the name of the little dot on top of a letter, when that's a vowel, it's called cholam. Everybody say cholam.
Cholam.
All right, and the sound cholam makes is o. So mo, we said this is a sheen. So mosh, this vowel underneath is a segol. It makes an e sound. So moshe.
Moshe.
Okay. Anytime the letter hey, this is a letter hey. Anytime the letter hey is at the end of a word, all by itself with no symbol inside of it, no dot, no vowel. If it's all by itself at the end of a word, that hey is silent. It has a purpose. Its purpose is to let us know that there should be a vowel under the previous letter if you are writing Hebrew without vowels, which is what's usually done. Most of the time, Hebrew is written without vowels. So there are a few letters that are used to symbolize or represent vowels. And hey at the end of the word, when it's all by itself, no dots or anything on it, that hey is symbolizing this vowel under the sheen. So that you can know there's a segol under here if you're looking at a text of Hebrew with no vowels.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. As long as we can keep it short, absolutely.
Yes, yes. So you are telling us that meme, sheen, sere, and hey. Hey
Yes.
is always remain silent when we write this word about Rabbeinu Moshe. So we say Moshe, not Moshe.
Correct. That's correct. Sometimes hey at the end of a word will make a sound, but if it makes a sound like Moshe, that will only be when there's a dot inside of the hey. And that's very rare. Very rare. Here, it's rare, but here's an example. Baruch Hashem, perfect example. Here, so here, because there's a dot, we would say de, wo, or devo, ta, ta. And the reason we say ta with a loud breath is because there's a dot in the hey at the end of the word. If there were no dot, we would just say devota. So hopefully you can hear the difference. Devota, that's if there's no dot in the hey, and devota, if there is a dot in the hey. 99% of occurrences when a hey is the last letter in a word, it will be like this with nothing inside of it. It will just be symbolic. So this is true not only for the name Moshe, this is true anywhere. In any word in Hebrew, if there's nothing in that hey at the end of the word, the hey, it's like it's not even there. Like here.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
one more question.
Okay, absolutely.
It is not a question. It is our correction. I want to
Okay.
be correct for this word. This Dalit.
Which word? Down here?
Yes.
Right here?
Yes. You say no. Deota. Deota.
Correct.
Deota. Dalit and Shva.
Yes.
Wow and Holam. Tau and Hamets. He with
This is called a
Dagesh.
mapik. Mapik. It looks
Mapik,
like a
okay.
dagesh, but when a
Yeah.
dagesh is inside of a hey, we call it mapik.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it is Deota or Dota.
Great question. So we were not really concerned with the correct pronunciation of this whole word. We were just focusing on the difference between hey with a dot and hey without a dot. But this is a challenging word, and I'll go ahead and explain it to you since you asked. So normally when you see the letter of with nothing underneath it and only a dot on top of it, that just simply makes an O sound, like the letter O, just like this little dot up here. So a dot on top of a word, on top of a letter, it represents the O sound. Moshe. lemor, right? We have an O. Mem cholam, the name of the vowel, which is a dot, is called cholam. Mor, right? Mem cholam resh, mor. Down here, we have daled with a shva. Because the shva is the first, under the first letter of the word, it's a sounded shva. That means it will make a short eh sound, de. Okay, it has to represent a short vowel, a short e sound, de. Normally, this cholam over the vav, as we were mentioning just a second ago, it makes just an o sound, like in Moshe, like in lemor. Here's different, and this place is different. Can you guess why it's different? It's an important answer, but it's kind of, it doesn't happen a lot, so I wouldn't be so worried. But you sound like you are a little more advanced in reading, so we will talk about it real fast. Why is it different here from other places?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain. So as we said, anytime you see a vav with a cholam over it, go ahead.
Yes. Rabbi, are you asking me?
If you know the answer, then please explain why this vav with the cholam, which would normally just make an O sound, why does it do something more here?
Rabbi, what I understand from
Go ahead. I may have accidentally muted you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
yes. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
Yes. So can I say
There was-
something, Rabbi?
Yeah, absolutely. I just had to mute someone because there was a lot of background noise.
Oh, yes. So I know a simple formula when we read the Hebrew. Consonant plus vowel, because here in this word devta we are seeing dalit and shva. Shva has a always it remains silent when shva become in between, but when its occurrence in very beginning, so it sound like
Yeah, a short
little.
short vowel sound.
Short
E
vowel,
sound.
short vowel. Yeah.
May I
So
please
that is
correct?
why.
I need to correct you on something though.
Yeah.
A shva, when a shva is in the middle of the word, if I understood correctly, I think you said it's always silent in the middle of a word. If that's what you said, I may have not heard you correctly. If that's what you said, I would tell you that you should assume it's silent. Assume it's silent if it's in the middle of the word, unless you know for sure that it's not. Because a shva is not always silent in the middle of a word. For example, here, it's not silent. If you're unsure, then you should treat it as if it's silent. But if you know how to tell the difference between a sounded shva and a silent shva, then yeah, sometimes it's not silent. For example, if a kamatz comes before a shva, then that shva will be sounded, not silent. So this would be v'tama instead of v'tama. But that's different. Go ahead and say what you were talking about here in devotha. Finish your question.
Yes.
You there?
Yes, Rabbi. I understand.
Was that your question?
No question.
Okay, so feel free to continue your question. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, you had a question, right?
Now I understand, Rabbi.
Could you please explain what you understood?
Because I understood this, that the word Dalit and Shwa, we are
Yes.
reading Dalit and Shwa. Shwa is short vowel. We pronounce it like the
Correct.
the ota.
Correct. That's correct. Okay. So I believe, if I hear you correctly, because our audio quality is not the best. If I hear you correctly, I think you are using the very accurate pronunciation, the ancient pronunciation. Is that correct? So that's what it
Yes,
sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the ancient pronunciation of Vav, when you pronounce a Vav like a consonant, instead of V, like the word violin or very, so in ancient times they pronounce it like a W, like the word with or will. For most people listening, we're just going to use the simple modern pronunciation. So as we were talking about before, this is a Vav with the Cholam. Cholam's the name of the vowel, O sound. Normally, a Vav and a Cholam just make an O. O. There are places where a Vav makes a consonant sound, like V or W. Okay? Here, this is unusual because the Vav with the O, with the Cholam, normally just makes a O sound, no V sound. But because this is coming as the first letter in a syllable, it has to make a consonant sound as well. So we're going to make the consonant sound, which is V, and then we're going to make the O sound, which is the Cholam. So that would be Vo, De, Vo, Vo, Ta. Okay, so back to our first pasuk. This is the most common verse in the Torah. Okay, this verse appears many, many times, exactly the same words in the Torah. So it's a great verse to practice if you want to practice reading Hebrew. Okay, so we finished Moshe. We said that this cholam, it's a dot that makes the letter shin a sha instead of an s sound, because the dot is on the right-hand side. And since the dot is so close to the mem, so this dot is serving two purposes. It's serving the purpose of making this a shin instead of a sin, and it's serving the purpose of being a cholam, an O vowel. So Moshe. This letter is Lamed. 1 second, I need to mute someone. This letter is Lamed. Lamed with a tsere is le, because the sound of the vowel tsere makes an e sound. So tsere is e. Everybody say tsere makes an e sound.
Sere.
Okay, so Lamed makes an L sound. L plus E is le. Okay, this is the letter Aleph. I know that what we're doing here is very basic for some people. If it's too basic for you, then you can. We will normally do the Hebrew, focusing on Hebrew for like the first 20 or so minutes. So if you want, you could just join 20 minutes later. And then once we see that most people know basic reading, then we will do something more advanced. So the first 20 minutes of our lessons every week is going to be pretty basic Hebrew. Okay, so this is the letter Aleph. Aleph, it's always going to be silent, like it's not even there, if you see that there is no vowel around it. So this one has no vowel. We're treating it like it's silent. In reality, it's symbolizing the vowel under the lamed. but we're reading with vowels, so we're treating it like it's silent. So le, mem with the cholam. What sound does cholam make? What vowel is that? So the vowel,
Kholam.
yeah. So the vowel cholam, it makes an o sound. So mem is the letter mem with a cholam, makes mo. So le, mo. The final letter is a resh. Resh is easy to remember because it looks like a backwards R in English. So mem plus cholam, mo, plus resh, which is an R, is mor. Le mor. So our verse is vai, da, ber. Everyone say vai, da, ber.
Wa'idber.
Vai, da, ber.
Wa'idber.
Okay. Adonai,
Adonai.
Aleph plus segol is e plus lamed is el. So everyone say el.
El.
Mem plus cholam is mo plus shin. Mosh plus segol is Moshe. Everyone say Moshe.
Moshe.
Okay. Yefe, kol hakavod. Lamed is an L sound plus sere is le. This aleph is silent. So le. Mem plus cholam is mo plus resh is mor. So le mor. Everyone say le mor. Okay, we're gonna Yefe. Okay, we're gonna read this together. Vaidaber
Wa'idber.
Adonai
Adonai.
El
El.
Moshe
Moshe.
Lemor.
Lemor.
All right, let's go ahead and go to halakha. Okay. We spent a lot more time on that. We'll get it. We'll get things more organized. This is our third lesson, and we started a little bit late. Okay, so this is Hilkhoth Yesodeh Torah. This is the first book in the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. I'm going back to show you how we got here. So like if you're on the main page for Chabad, the fastest way to find it, you're at chabad.org. You click on this search place on the right-hand side, type in Mishneh Torah. It pops up. You can just click it. Here you are, Mishneh Torah, click. So these are all the books of the Mishneh Torah. We are currently studying the first book, Sefer Madad, the book of knowledge. The first smaller book inside the larger book, Sefer Madad, is called Yesodeh, ha-Torah. What does Yesodeh mean? Yesod, Yesod. Yesod means foundation. That's the most important part of a building. When you are creating a new building, you first have to put the foundation, that's the concrete, right on the earth. So it's what supports the whole building. So these are concepts that support the whole Torah. Last week we learned that Hashem, his existence, his being, the quality of his existence, it's fundamentally different from the quality of all other existence. So when we say that Hashem is different, we don't mean he's different from other creation. We don't mean he's different from creation just in size. He's not bigger than creation because size and shape don't apply to God. When we say that he's greater or bigger, we mean that the quality of his existence is completely different. And it's different not in size or shape, but in quality. It's fundamentally other. We learned that we should not imagine that he has a form or a color or sex, anything like that. And this is even though the Bible describes God, but we learned that when the Bible describes God, when the Torah describes God, it's using figures of speech, metaphors. These are important words to learn. All right, so here we have in Telugu. These are very important words, because when we talk about God, we're always using metaphors and idioms and allegories. We have to learn that when we talk about God or describe God, we are not using literal descriptions. It is a mistake to take the word he in reference to God literally. God is not a male or a female or a male female.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Rabbi,
Yes, I also not believe in that God is not a male, not a female, not a both. But why
Okay.
this he word is used in English Bible and who in Hebrew, I think.
Correct. The question is why, right?
Yeah, why?
So the reason why is because anything that we say about God will be inaccurate. Anything. So we have to use something. If we did not use some word, some description, then most people would feel like God does not even exist. But he does exist. And the reality of his existence is more true than anything else. But unfortunately, we have to use imperfect words, words that are not perfect, to refer to God. So even though to say that God is he, it's not correct, but it's even less correct to say nothing. If we said nothing, it would be like God does not even exist, and that's even more incorrect. So sometimes there's a certain person who's joined us that I've had to mute several times. I'm happy if you will speak, but if you are unmuting yourself, please speak. Don't just have the background noise. And I apologize to continue muting, but I have to mute because it makes noise. Unless you're talking. If you're talking, that's great. Okay. So, did everyone understand? And if not, please ask, because that's the purpose of this class. Okay, so we said that God is not a he, God is not a man or a male, but we refer to God as he because there's no other way to refer to him. If we said God is a she, we have the same problem. If we say God is a she, we have the same problem because God is not a female. And it could be, I don't know for a fact, but it could be that maybe we became popular to refer to God as he instead of she, because for maybe where the Torah was first, like the culture where the Torah was first given, it's possible that the female idolatry, worshiping a goddess, a female image, maybe that was more popular then. But really we have the problem either way we slice the cake. That's an English figure of speech. Either way you slice the cake. And whatever way you approach it, there's going to be a problem.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
but in Tanakh, we see whenever Hashem addressed with the people of
Israel?
Bnei Israel, people of Israel, he always addressed or he, what we use the word, as a always he, whenever he talked with the prophets, he showing himself as a male.
Yes.
Everywhere, not as a female.
Correct.
So if
Rabbi, and,
God himself,
and also,
Let's have one person speak
Rabbi,
at a time. One
and-
person at a time.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
So our first speaker, if we can just try to summarize it, and then we'll go to Sundar.
So my question is this, Rabbi, always, not only the men, God himself showing himself as a male, not as a female.
Okay.
So what is the reason?
So the truth of the matter is that sometimes God does show himself as if a female. In the book of Isaiah, God says that he has protected and provided for Israel like a mother. It says explicitly, like a mother. In the Torah, some of the attributes of God that are given to the priests, which in the book of Isaiah, they're called spirits of God. But obviously God is not multiple spirits, but his attributes are sometimes called spirits, like the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of understanding, the spirit of counsel. So in the Torah, we find these same quote unquote spirits. It says that God gave these qualities to the leaders of Israel. All of those qualities, well, I don't know if all of them, but most of those qualities, they're in the feminine form. And this gets lost in translation to English. But many of the qualities of God are feminine. Chokhmah, that's feminine. Binah is feminine. De'ah, it's feminine. Da'at, it's feminine. So he has both, but most of the time when God is speaking, he's speaking as an authority. And in most cultures, the male kind of represents the public authority. The woman might have a lot of authority in the house. She might beat her husband up in the if he doesn't like her cooking, she might be very angry. So if a man is smart, he doesn't want to make the wife angry. But in public, traditionally, it was the male who was the authority outside. And that's probably the reason why most of the time when God is speaking, the male form is used. But what's most important is that we know that none of this is accurate in a literal sense. God is not literally male or female. And God relates to us in his word when he speaks. He's relating to us on our level as humans. Just the same way that when you talk to a little boy or a little girl, it's a child. You can't talk to them with big words that they won't understand. You have to make everything more simple than it really is in reality. And so if we do that with our children, then God is going to do it with us even more so, because the difference between our children and us as adults, that's a small difference compared to us and God. The difference between us and God is infinite. So of course God is going to use more simple language, not advanced, accurate language that we can't understand. That's in a nutshell. Is that okay?
Toda, my Rabbi.
All right. Sundar.
What?
Rabbi, shalom.
Shalom uvracha.
Hello. Shalom, Rabbi. In Genesis, the first chapter, God created the man his own image.
Correct.
So, God is male.
It also says there that God created male and female in his own image. If you don't recall that, then I can look it up for you. Do you remember that?
Rabbi?
You remember, it doesn't only say he created man in his own image. It also says he created male and female in his own image.
Yes, Rabbi. In first chapter, that is mentioned. God created
Yes.
male and female.
Yes.
So that is also.
Here we go.
But,
Male and female. So if it's talking about an actual image, a physical image, then that means that God is not just a man, he's also a woman. But we know that this is preposterous. It's preposterous, meaning It's a big mistake of the intellect. It's an intellectual error to think it's literal, that God literally is male or female, because he told us explicitly when he revealed himself in Mount Sinai, you did not see an image of male or female. You did not see an image, male or female.
Yes, sir. Yes, Rabbi, it is true.
Deuteronomy 4:6. Okay. You saw no form of God when he spoke to you. Right? So the question is, what does it mean that he created us in his image? So most scholars believe that the idea is that in a symbolic way, we are created in God's image, in the sense that the same way that God has free will, he's given us some free will. In the same way that God is creative, he's given us a desire to create. And it's also important that the word used there as image in English, the Hebrew word there is not the normal word for image. The normal word for image is temunah. Temunah, that's a picture, some kind of image in your head. The word in Genesis that they translate to English with the word image, that's not the regular word image. Instead, it's the word selem, and the root of that word, the closest thing to it, is sel, which means a shadow. And a shadow, if you look on the ground, the shadow kind of gives an idea about who you are, but it's not actually you. It's not literal, right? It's not literally you. That's possibly the reason that the word baselem was used there instead of temunah. Okay, let's start reading. Do we have any volunteers to read the English?
Yes, Rabbi, can I read?
Absolutely. Let's see. Where did we stop?
Yosef boy, always you keep rocking. Yeah, Baruashim.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You read, my brother. Yaqub,
No,
you read.
no. Yeah,
Okay.
you read. Yeah, I am
Yaakov will
listening.
go first, and then Shema Yisrael will go next.
Yeah.
No
Okay,
What I am
Yaakov.
reading, Shema Israel.
Yaakov,
Yeah.
B'chavod, go ahead.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
what I am Shema Israel? Huh? Shema Israel.
What did he
What I am
say?
reading, Rabbi?
Can you see my screen?
Shema Israel is my
Rabbi.
ID. Yosef ID.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
Yes, sir.
Shema Yisrael because other people may not know.
Yeah.
You can see
Yes.
each other's names on here, right? I don't know. Let's go ahead and begin. Okay, Yaakov, B'chavod.
Rabbi, what I'm saying, Shema. Hello, Rabbi.
I hear you. Please complete your question.
Yeah, I'm actually today I'm working. Yeah, that's why your lesson I'm listening. That's why.
Okay, great. Did you want to read or only listen?
English.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
I read in English.
Yes. Please read in English.
Yeah. Behold, it is explicitly stated in the Torah and the works of the prophets that the Holy One, blessed be He, He is not confined to a body or physical form, as a states, because God, your Lord, is the Lord in the heavens above and the earth below, and a body cannot exist in two places. Also, for you did not see any image, and states, to whom can you liken me, with whom I will be equal? Were he confined to a body, he would resemble other bodies.
Right, this word "were," it's like saying if he were confined if he were limited to a body, he would be like other bodies. And also here, if everybody has a pencil and a paper, you can write down these words where it says, when God said we didn't see an image,
Yeah.
that's the word temuna we talked about before. Temuna is an image, something you see. That's different from the word in Genesis, which is basalem, where it says he created man and male and female in his image. That would be basalem, whereas the normal word for image or picture is temuna. Okay, let's read one more. Mr. Shema Yisrael, Yalla.
Yes, Yalla. Yes, from 9, chapter 9?
Yes, sir. Not chapter 9, halach. This is halacha 9.
Halakha. 9. Okay.
Halacha, yeah.
If so, what is the meaning of the expressions employed by the Torah? Below his feet, Exodus chapter 24, verse 10, written by the finger of God, God's hand, God's eyes, God's ears, and the like. All these expressions were used. Yes.
Continue.
Okay. All these expressions were used to relate to human thought processes, which now only corporeal imagery for the
So
Torah
this word
speaks in the
corporal,
language
it
of
means
man.
physical.
Yeah.
Just for everyone to know. So it's saying that God uses this kind of terminology. God uses these sorts of words or descriptions. Finger of God, eyes of God, ears of God. God describes himself this way, not because he has ears or eyes. He does it only because this is all that a human being can relate to. It's what we're used to hearing. We can't imagine anything different. Okay, tamshich. Continue, bevakasha. Tamshich.
Oh, okay. Toda. For the Torah speaks in the language of man. They are only descriptive terms as apparent from Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 41. I will whet my lighting sword. Does
Lightning. So
he
that's
have
like
a
when there's
sword?
a storm and you see light. He will bring out his lightning sword. Obviously, God doesn't have a sword.
So, does he have a sword?
No.
Does he need a sword to kill? Rather, this is the metaphoric imagery. Similarly, all such expressions are metaphoric imagery.
Right? And that's this word here. I don't know if it's translated correctly, but that's what we're trying to explain here.
Yeah, metaphor, idioms.
They're symbols.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else want to read?
Yeah, I am reading.
Okay, b'chavod. Thank you, brother Yosef.
Toda.
Shema Yisrael.
Yeah,
Shema
a proof
Yisrael.
of Rabbi, I can. Shall I read?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. A proof of this concept, one prophet say that he saw the Holy One, blessed be he, clothed in snow, while Daniel chapter 7:9, and another envisioned him with crimson garments from Tazria. Isaiah 63:1. Moses, our teacher, himself envisioned him at the Red Sea, a mighty man, waging war, and at Mount Sinai, saw him as the leader of congregation, wrapped. This shows that he has no image or form. All these are merely expressions of prophetic visions and imaginary, and the truth of his concept cannot be grasped or comprehended by human thought. This is what the verse Job 11:7 states. Can you find the comprehensions of God? Can you find the ultimate bounds of the Almighty?
Right.
If
All
so,
these questions are rhetorical. That means
yeah.
when when the Bible is asking these questions, these types of questions, the answer is no. Can you understand everything about God? We're supposed to understand no, of course not. All right, so we'll pick up at number 10. Let's read a little bit of Hilkhoth Pesach. If anybody wants to go, please feel free to go. I know that it is late at night. It's late at night over there. Okay, so now we're going to do Hilkhoth, Hamets, u-Matsa, the laws of Passover. So to find this, remember, like we said before, you go to chabad.org, type in Mishneh Torah, right? You click it, it pops up. Here we are. So, oh, it actually did. So it comes up. This is the whole Mishneh Torah. It's the Rambam. He organized all the laws from the Talmud in a very logical way. So we were just learning Yesodeh Torah, the foundations of the Torah. That's in the first book. Now we are going to the third book, Sefer Zmanim, the book of times. Okay? The first part of the book of times is on Shabbat. We want Passover, so we are going to the fifth one, Hamets u-Matsa, leavening and unleavened bread, chapter 1. Okay, do we have any sacrifices? Who wants to sacrifice themselves?
Rabbi, please show your face.
My face? You sound like Moses. Show me your glory.
Burden. Okay.
Okay. Would someone
Yeah.
like to read?
Yeah, Rabbi.
Yes.
Let's have a new person read.
Can I read, Rabbi?
Is that Rosalind?
Yes, yes. Shalom,
B'chavod.
Rabbi.
Please go ahead.
This text describes 8 mitzvot, 3 positive commandments and 5 negative commandments. They include the prohibition against eating Hamets from noon of the 14th of Nisan onwards. The commandments to destroy all Hamets from the 14th of Nisan onwards. The
Okay,
prohibition.
let's hold up. Let's hold up. All
Okay.
right. So when there's a CH, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but I'm sure some of you know this, that in Hebrew, I'm turning my typing to Hebrew. You have the letter chaf, right? And then you have the letter het, correct? So there's a little bit of problem in modern Hebrew language. When the letter kaf has a dot inside of it, it's K like the word, it sounds like K, like the word cat or kill. And when there's no dot in this letter kaf, it sounds like a cha sound. The problem is we also have this letter called chet. In modern Hebrew, the popular way of reading Hebrew, they pronounce this letter chet the same exact way they pronounce chaf. They don't make any difference. But if we make a mistake on this letter, it's okay to make it like a K sound. With this letter, though, if it's difficult to make a cha sound, it's better to pronounce this letter het, better to pronounce it like the letter H, ha, than to pronounce it like a ka. So for example, Hamets, if you have difficulty making a cha sound, if you can see the word in Hebrew and you know it's a het, it's better to just do Hamets instead of kamets. Because kamets sounds like the name of a vowel, kamats. That's one of the vowels. So let's say Hamets, if that's okay. Beseder?
That's it.
Hello? Okay, so Hamets. Either Hamets or Hamets. But not, yes, but, and actually Hamets sounds even more clear. but definitely don't say Hamets, because that sounds like the name of a vowel. And a modern Hebrew speaker will not, they will be confused. Okay, so the commandment to destroy all Hamets.
Shall I start?
Yes, ma'am. I apologize for interrupting.
Okay. The prohibition against eating Hamets for the 7th day of Pesach.
Hamets.
Hamets.
There you go.
The prohibition against eating mixtures of Hamets for the
Hamets.
7th day of Hamets.
We have to get this right.
Rabbi, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can we say Hamets or Hamets?
Those are the only two acceptable ways. If we say Hamets, it will confuse people who are not used to hearing, like, different countries have different accents. So
Yes.
some Americans will also say Hamets, but most Jews in most parts of the world, they won't know what you're saying. They will think you're talking about a vowel. So we have two options that they will understand. They will understand Hamets, ha, like the letter, like help me, Hamet.
Yeah.
They will
Hamets,
understand that, or you can say cha, but we cannot say ka.
Hamets.
Yeah, I know it's difficult to break a habit, but because this is a common word and it's important, that's why I'm making a big deal. If it were, there's a lot of noise.
बढ़िया अंदर
If it's a rare word, a word that we don't say a lot, it's not a big deal. Okay, so I know you can do it because I already heard you do it a few times. Let me turn this down. Okay, Rosalind, please go ahead and please forgive me.
Okay. The prohibition against eating mixture of Hamets for the
Yes.
7th day of Pesach. The prohibition against Hamets being seen in our possession for the 7 days of Pesach. The prohibition against Hamets being found in our possession for the 7th day of Pesach. The commandments to eat matzah on the night of Pesach. The commandments to relate the story of the Exodus from Egypt on that night. These mitzvot are explained in the following chapters.
All right. Do you want to read maybe also this one?
Okay. Anyone who intentionally eats an olive size or nor of Hamets on Pesach from the beginning of the night of the 15th of Nisan until the conclusion of the day of the 21st of Nisan is liable for as Exodus 12:15 states.
Hold on, slowly. So sometimes in this text, they are putting the Hebrew and they're not giving the English. So
Yeah.
liable means it's a penalty, like a punishment. So if a person intentionally means on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's saying if anyone intentionally eats, meaning if anybody eats on purpose, it's not an accident. If they eat the amount of hamets, that's like regular puffy bread full of air. If they eat that kind of bread on Pesach, on purpose, the size of an olive. Do they eat olives in India very often?
No, Rabbi.
No. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes.
It's a small little type of fruit that is not sweet. It's okay. So like if you put your two fingers together to make a circle with your fingers, that's about the size. So if you eat that on purpose on Pesach, then the punishment is karet. So if you guys have a pen and paper, you can write this word, karet.
Correct.
This is what it looks like. Karet. Almost like the word carrot. Jazara. Karet. Karet.
What does it mean?
Karet means cut off.
Cut off. Okay.
Means moved. It literally means cut off. We don't know exactly what it's referring to. There are different opinions in the Jewish world, but we know that it's the most severe punishment. And because we don't know exactly what it is, so pretty much everyone agrees that it's something that, well, everybody in Jewish tradition agrees. There's no debate that it's something that God does. It's not something that a human or a human court will do. So some people think it means that God will make the person die earlier than they would have died otherwise. And some people think it means that God will cancel their place in the world to come. So it's we don't know exactly what it is, but we know it's something very serious. Maybe it just means they're cut off from the people of Israel. It's like they're doing something so different. They're saying, if they do this act, it's like the person is saying, I don't want to have anything to do with the people of God. That is this word, karet. You can remember this letter, kaf, because it looks like the C sound in the word cat in English, like dogs and cats.
Yeah.
It looks like a C, but backwards. Just like this. Looks like an R, but backwards. Let's see this. Look at that. You guys see that?
Yeah.
So if anybody's struggling with these letters, this is an easy way to remember.
Correct.
Kaf resh. It's like CR. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, b'chavod. Go ahead. So karet. See that? You know what it means.
Yeah. As Exodus 12:15 states, whoever eats leaven will have his soul cut off. Should one eat this amount of hamets unintentionally, one is liable to bring a fixed sin offering as atonement. The above applies equally to one who eats hamets and one who converts it into a liquid and drinks it.
Can I just say, the way you are saying Hamets now, it's beautiful. It's perfect. Absolutely
Thank
perfect.
you.
It's even better than how most Israelis will say it. They say Hamets, most of them. And it's also not accurate, but they will understand that. And they will also understand what you say, because the older Hebrew speakers, maybe age 50 and older, they pronounce Hamets the way that you're saying it. That's the more ancient way of saying it. Okay, who wants to read halakha number 2?
Yeah, I am reading, Rabbi.
All right, Mr. Yaakov, b'chavod, b'chavod.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, Mr. Yaakov. Can you or someone else tell us what b'chavod means?
Nice.
You can write this note, because I'm going to try to teach you guys Hebrew over time. You will learn more and more Hebrew. B'chavod.
Bechavod.
Let's go, Rabbi.
Yeah?
Let's go or nice.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay. Let's go.
Aha, okay, very good. So it means, okay, this means let's, well, It is a polite way of saying go ahead, or well, it's more like go ahead, because let's go is for everyone. So it's kind of like you go ahead, or go ahead. But it literally means with honor or with respect. Kavod is respect, honor, noun. Dignity. Yeah. So b'chavod means you can go ahead, but it also means with respect. So sometimes you'll hear the word b'chavod in other situations as well.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
sometime many people says yalla. So is it equivalent with bakhavod or
I love
yalla?
what you're saying. I love what you're saying. Okay,
Yalla.
so yalla.
Yalla, yalla.
Yalla is used for meaning the same thing as b'chavod, but it is the opposite. B'chavod is polite. Yalla is very casual.
Okay.
Yalla is slang terminology. But chavod is proper literary Hebrew. Yalla originates from Arabic. But chavod is pure Hebrew. So a lot of the slang terms in modern Hebrew come from Arabic. So yalla we use it in modern Hebrew, so the Hebrew language adopted yalla, but it's not originally Hebrew.
Okay.
All right. Yalla. Yaakov, yalla. B'chavod. Yaakov, efo ata? Where are you?
I'm in form, Rabbi.
Yalla, b'chavod.
Yeah, yalla.
B'chavod, habibi. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm reading.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, done. Second, huh?
Ken, b'chavod.
Yeah. On Pesach. I'm right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on Pesach, it is forbidden to derive and benefit from comets. As Exodus
Hamets.
13,
On
Hamets.
Pesach,
Hamets, Yaakov.
Yeah, Hamets.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Exodus 13 is 3 states do not eat comets. It is not
Hamets.
permitted.
Hamets.
Hamets.
Yes, sir.
Hamets.
We're going to get this right.
Is correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Kol
Yes,
hakavod.
sir. Yeah. It is not permitted to be used to derive benefit that leads to eating. A person who leaves Hamets within his property on Pesach, even though he does not eat it, transgresses two prohibitions. Exodus 13:7 states no leavening agent may be seen in all your territory, and Exodus 12:19 states no leavening agent may be found in your homes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. You can read this too.
Though the prohibition stated in these verses apply to, it is the same prohibition.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I apologize because it's not your fault, but on this translation, a lot of times if there's a certain word that is a key concept, like a very important concept, a lot of times they will put it in Hebrew in the text, but we still need to read it. So this is se'or. Se'or.
Se'or?
Yes. So we have the word se'or and we have the word hamets. So if you can write this down, I will give you some notes. Okay. So se'or. This is what
It's the same prohibition. It is which both and
I can't hear you. Very bad audio.
leavened and leaving agent.
Is
Leavening agent. Leavening agent. Huh?
correct. Historically, in the Torah, this refers to the small amount of uncooked flour dough that was added to a large amount of dough in order to make the dough rise and contain air to make the bread fluffy and airy. And then Hamets refers to the actual bread that puffed up because of the se'or. Leavened. Okay, so we have two things, se'or and hamets.
Can we say that the rising agent?
That is the se'or, the rising agent. Yeah, leavening agent, rising agent is the same thing. So you can say whatever helps you the most to remember. Right. So in modern times, they
Rabbi,
have
shall I
these
read?
little tiny. Go ahead. Do you want to read? Is that what you said? Yes, go ahead. Yaakov. Rav Yaakov. Does anyone want to read? Any volunteers? Okay, then I'm going to read. So although the prohibition, which is stated in these verses of the Torah, apply to se'or, so the verses that we're looking at is talking about se'or. It's not talking explicitly about bread itself, but it's talking about the little tiny piece of dough that is added to a big amount of dough in order to make the dough rise to be fluffy bread. Okay, so even though these verses are talking about that small amount of dough, the leavening agent, the rising agent, se'or, the halakha is telling us that the same prohibition it applies to Hamets as well. It's the same prohibition. The Torah just didn't want us to think that only bread is forbidden. The Torah is telling us it's not only bread that's forbidden, it's also the dough which causes rising, that causes a type of bread that has air inside of it. All right, does somebody want to read halakha number 3?
Here I have one question, brother.
What's that?
The rising music we use dough, that is
The audio quality is very bad. It sounds like something is rubbing your microphone.
okay.
If you want, you can type. Maybe you can type your question in the chat.
Okay.
So someone who breaks this law is not given punishment by lashes for violating that prohibition that you should not have Hamets in your property, in your possession, unless he purchased the Hamets on Passover. So if a person broke the Torah, violated the Torah, and he kept Hamets or Seor in his property from before Passover, then there's no actual punishment from the human police of ancient Israel. But if he bought the Hamets on Passover itself, or he intentionally made flour become Hamets, then he does get a punishment. So a lot of times in halakha, it talks about an actual punishment in real life, not in the world to come. But when it's talking about this, it's talking about in a situation where we have a Beit Din Gadol, which we do not have today. And it only applies in the land of Israel. But there is no concept of doing this without the authority of the Beit Din Gadol, not just any 3 rabbis today, because there are not actual rabbis today who have semicha, ordination, going all the way back to Moses, with authority from the great Sanhedrin. Okay, does somebody want to read the rest of number 3?
Can I read?
Oh, absolutely. I think I hear you better now. Go ahead. B'chavod.
However, if he possessed Hamets before Pesach, and when Pesach came, he did not destroy it and left it in his possession, even though he transgresses 2 prohibitions. According to the Torah, he is not lashed, for he did not perform a deed. Nevertheless, he is given stripes for being rebellious.
Okay, so this introduces 2 new concepts to us. If you guys, and I encourage you to do this, you can learn these laws even when we're not having our lesson. You just go to chabad.org, you type in Mishneh Torah, you can find the laws of matzah, Hamets u'Matsa. But if you are reading a lot of halakha, you're going to see the concepts of lash and stripes for rebelliousness. These 2 things talk about 2 different types of punishments in this world, in this life, not in the next life. And as we just mentioned before, this is not permission for a husband or a rabbi to hit someone. This is not permission. This does not allow that. This is in reference to a court and the policemen, the officers of the ancient court of Israel, or if we have the ancient court of Israel resurrected, if it's recreated, then there will be policemen just like in any government. And if the policemen see people breaking the Torah openly, they're doing it without shame. And this does not apply to mistakes or accidents. then for certain violations of the Torah, there are lashes. When you read in halakha lashes, that means that according to Jewish tradition, that punishment, it's from the Torah, meaning the Torah tells us to give this punishment. When you see in halakha stripes for rebelliousness, that means that the Torah does not command this punishment. Instead, it is a punishment that is rabbinic. It's called mid-darabanan, darabanan. So stripes for rebelliousness means they violated it's a punishment that is instituted by the ancient sages of the ancient court. And that's different from lashes, which is instituted by the Torah, as opposed to the ancient sages. Okay, od halacha achat, maybe we'll do one more halacha, and then we will call it an end for the day. Who is our next victim?
Shall I read?
You want to be the victim?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Hamets.
It is prohibited to ever benefit from Hamets that a Jew possessed during Pesach. This prohibition is a penalty instituted by the sages. Since the person transgressed the prohibition against Hamets, being found and being seen in his position, the prohibited its use. The above applies even if he inadvertently left the Hamets in his possession during Pesach or was forced to do so. These stringency were instituted, lest a person leaves Hamets in his possession during Pesach in order to benefit from it after Pesach.
Okay, so lest, this word is a higher word in English. It's not a word that people normally use in regular speech every day. Lest basically means in a negative situation. So these stringencies, these strict measures, extra laws that were created by the sages, they were put in place to protect us against a negative situation, lest. So in the negative situation that a person left Hamets, left leavened bread in his property or in his possession during Passover. Because sometimes it even happens inadvertently. Inadvertently means not on purpose. They didn't actively do it. It just happened that way, right? So we are trying to take measures. We are trying to do something to prevent something from accidentally happening. Does anyone have any questions about this so far?
Yeah, Rabbi, can I ask?
Absolutely.
It's a baking powder. It's a Hamets.
Baking powder, if I remember correctly, might not be.
Because
I'm not a big cook. Go ahead.
It also makes the bread fluffy type.
रोजलिन जी
हाँ जी सिस्टर
वो बेकिंग पाउडर नहीं ईस्ट होता है ना यही मैं पूछने वाली थी ईस्ट हम केक्स में और ब्रेड्स में ईस्ट पाउडर डालते हैं ना ईस्ट
नहीं सिस्टर बेकिंग पाउडर भी यूज होता है ना बेकिंग पाउडर को ये है कि वो थोड़ा सॉफ्ट होने के लिए
बेकिंग पाउडर सॉफ्ट होने के लिए लेकिन ईस्ट तो राइसेस ईस्ट
उसको बढ़ाने के लिए हाँ जी.
Okay, so I'm not a cook. I don't know a whole lot about different ingredients, so I want to know the answer to this and I can investigate for you. But what I can tell you is that when the Torah talks about se'or, a leavening agent, it's not talking about more modern chemicals that do a similar effect. It is, if you have a chemical which is not seor, even if the Torah does not prohibit owning or possessing that chemical on Passover, it would still be not allowed to use it to create Hamets. But there's a difference between not using something to create Hamets. That's different from saying you should not own it or you should not have it in your house on Passover. So seor, we should not have in our house. Seor is the ancient kind of rising agent. But seor was not exactly baking powder or the little tiny yeast particles that you buy in a store. Seor refers to like a little piece of dough, a little piece of flour mixed with water that was already rising. And they would take that bit of dough and they'd add it to another large amount of dough, and it would give the effect of rising to the entire large amount of dough. So the seor of the Torah is not exactly the same as modern day rising agents. It may or may not be. You have to investigate. And I will try to do that for you. Are there any other questions?
No, Rabbi, thank you. Toda.
My pleasure. I apologize for my lack of knowledge, but that's part of the pleasure of living, to continually learn.
No, it's a wonderful class. We are learning many things.
Thank you very much. Baruch Hashem.
Sir,
Yeah.
Tamil.
Any other questions?
Seor, Tamil.
You want in Tamil?
Rabbi,
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
it's honey. Can we use honey? Bee honey?
I think honey is okay. If the honey was mixed with Hamets, that's a different problem.
Okay.
I'm going to put some of your questions in our chat on WhatsApp so that I will remember the question. Is baking soda? And of course, you can find an answer to this on the internet. The thing is, though, that especially on Passover, there are more differences among religious Orthodox communities than there are during the rest of the year. And that's because there are many different traditions. And I don't want to burden you guys. I don't want to make your life more difficult because of traditions that maybe they are good traditions for one community, but not good for another community. And it's important to always remember that there's a difference between local traditions and what the Torah commands and what the sages of ancient Israel commanded.
Yeah.
So I just want to be careful to not make you feel, I don't want your life to be more difficult because of something that you do not have to worry about. So is baking soda, that's why I want to be more cautious. Is baking soda asur?
Not baking soda, it's baking powder.
Baking powder, thank you. Is baking
Yeah.
powder.
Yeah.
So yeast.
Is baking powder asur? Can anybody tell me what the word asur means?
No, we don't know about it.
Okay, so asur is, if you want to write it down, asur means forbidden. It's just the regular Hebrew word for forbidden, not allowed.
Okay.
So you might, if you're doing research on the internet by yourself, even when they write in English, a lot of times on Jewish websites, they will use this word asur instead of the English word forbidden or not allowed. And it's important to know because they do it. They will write asur in any language.
Okay.
So asur means forbidden, not allowed. Mutar means permitted, allowed. So we need to find out, is bee honey asur or mutar?
Yeah.
Is baking soda asur or mutar? Okay, and If anyone has any other questions about that, you can send a text in our little chat and I will try to give you an answer. Any other questions?
No, Rabbi.
Everybody want to go to sleep?
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom uvracha. Ma shlomcha. How are you?
Fine, fine. How are you?
Yishtabach shemo. Praise God.
Okay.
How's the mikveh?
Oh, fine. Everything is over. All the flooring works, painting works, everything is over. Now it is ready, 100%.
Awesome. Baruch Hashem. Did you put bubbles in there? If you put bubbles, it can be like a jacuzzi.
Means? I'm sorry, I was not able to understand.
If you put bubbles in your jacuzzi,
Yeah.
if you put bubbles in there, you can.
next time we will arrange.
Yeah. And then when no one is using it, you can make money from it. You can they can come and pay to use the jacuzzi.
Okay, definitely.
But only you have to separate men and women though.
Okay. When are you coming, Rabbi, again?
What was that?
When are you coming again?
I am not sure. Possibly the next time that Asher organizes, then may come as Rat Hashem.
Next time, there's no need to stay anywhere. Our building is going to be ready.
Bez Rat Hashem. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. If you guys don't have any more questions, then I will leave you to have a good night's sleep. So everybody can say Laila Tov. Another thing you can say is Halamot Na'imim.
This is too long.
Pleasant.
Rabbi, Islam is for.
What?
Islam is for.
I can't hear you. Can you speak a little bit more slowly?
Yes, brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can say Laila Tov, but the other sentence we can't say. That is too long for us.
Okay, I can make it more short for you.
No internet. No, I'm not here.
Halamot Na'imim. Is that better?
Yeah.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. Halamot Na'imim. Pleasant dreams.
Halamot. Halamot Naimin.
Beautiful. You're saying it perfectly.
Halamot Naimin.
Perfect. I will leave this up here for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes so that you can write it down, and then I will leave.
I can take screenshot. Okay. Thank you, Brother Yosef, giving us a big teaching.
My pleasure. It's a joy. Thank you guys so much. You make my day.
This is our pleasure.
Alom is dream.
Hello, Rabbi.
Laila Tov. Halomot Na'imim.
Naim, pleasant.